Ever since I came across my family computer as a child, I've always been intrigued with computers and how they worked. With my curiosity, it led me to pursue further research towards computers and how they work and the parts inside of a computer. So as I got older, I began working and saving all the money I could to buy my own parts and eventually put together and build my own computer, my item of significance. I had originally built this computer in 2018 during the surge in Bitcoin mining. This was when all the graphics processing units, the GPU, were being bought out by these miners, which caused the prices of the GPU to greatly inflate. This made it hard for me, a regular consumer, to get my hands on a well performing GPU without going over my budget. Luckily, when I was in school, I was able to buy a graphics card that was really good and one that I have been looking at for a decent price when they just restocked. Also, at the same time, random access memory, or RAM, was also in very high demand due to the surge in Bitcoin mining. But unfortunately, I had to cut my losses and buy a very slow and cheap kit, which greatly affected the performance of my computer for that time being. Other than those components, the rest of my buying process for my computer was very smooth and there was nothing I had to go out of my way for. For those of you that don't know, a GPU, a graphics processing unit, is what allows for there to be images that show up on your screen. And random access memory, RAM, is what helps your computer perform tasks. Now, the assembly for this computer was very, very nerve-wracking. Before even unboxing any of my parts, I had to make sure I was standing on smooth ground, no carpet to carry static electricity. I had to make sure I was also grounded and that there was no static electricity running inside of my body. So I had to wear an anti-static wrist strap, touch a part of my case which was metal to make sure I was grounded. After all the precautionary steps, I began building. Now, the building process was relatively easy. I was plugging everything in, I was snapping everything in, making sure everything clicked, making sure everything was in the right place. Screwing all the screws in very tight, just making sure everything was plugged in at the right spot. Now, after the building process came the scariest process of all, just making sure the computer turned on. I've been working on this computer for 6 hours, putting everything together, and what if it doesn't even work? What if I press the power button and nothing shows up? So I set it on my desk, plugged everything into my monitor that I had at the time, and I turned it on, and I waited for a few seconds to see nothing came up, but then boom, a light appears. That I was so relieved at the time. That meant that my computer's working, all the fans in my computer began running, all the lights started turning on, started hitting my face, and that's when I knew I had finally done it. I built my computer. Now, even though I'd just spent all this money on a computer, there were still some minor setbacks. The monitor that I was using eventually broke, and I could not afford one at the time, so I just had to use anything that I had, my TV. So for most of the time, my computer just became a nightlight, just sitting there on the ground. The RGB lights that were going through it just passing by. But 2 years after, I finally bought a very nice monitor to suit my very nice computer. That was when I began using my computer a lot more often. This was during the COVID outbreak time back in March. This opened up very many new opportunities for me. My computer was essentially a gateway to connecting with others, doing my classwork, and having fun. I could connect with all of my classmates, all of my friends that I couldn't see in person due to COVID-19. I saw them through Zoom, I talked to them through Discord. I was able to speak with my family that was from across half of the world in Thailand. Me and my mom were able to see them. This My computer really helped me with being stuck at home with nothing able to do. Through my computer, I was able to play games and keep myself entertained and not go crazy during this quarantine that we were going through. Even though I built my computer, I have been upgrading it constantly, replacing the old parts, making sure it has new parts so it can stay running and become the best machine it can be. For my first research question, how can computers help or affect researchers and those in the science field of study? My second research question, should more computer skills be taught to students in school as they are now becoming more mandatory for most jobs? For my third research question, how does online learning through a computer compare to being in person in a classroom?